all afraid of it's not the protesters I'm afraid of. It's the intentions of the rioters.
I
That's what
agree.
Jack wants to get the message out there that, because he works with us. And he said, I want to get the message out there that this is not what we intended to have happen. So I hope you're safe. I know it gets rough in the South. So,
Yeah, I hope so. It's just coming out of COVID-19 and the shelter in place, and now this, it's just very surreal. 2020 is just something that no one's ever seen before, and everyone's feeling that, and it's unbelievable, the state that we're in right now in the world. And who would have ever thought that we were going to experience a pandemic to the degree that we just did, and are still going through it. It's not over. Maybe it is for me because I'm one of the unlucky ones that had it. So at this point, it makes me lucky because now I go out into the world feeling like I have a suit of armor on a little bit. But I just tried to take my daughter to the dentist this morning, and that was a whole ordeal with the temperature and waiting and go sit in your car. And she was upset because she's never done that before. And so we're just, we're experiencing all these different challenges. I tried to go to the bank and get coin. You can't get coin in a drive-through, which is the only way that they want to see you. You have to go in because the coin can't transfer through the, through the tubes.
Right. Yeah.
And that was, just everything is so challenging.
It is.
And then and now where I am, just outside of Atlanta, there's all the road construction signs and there's cops everywhere. And again, there is a peaceful protest supposed to be starting at 2:00, but we're all evacuating. And of course, I'm not going to sleep easy tonight. It's going to be a night of high anxiety, just worried about my store that I've put blood, sweat, and tears into. And again, it's not the protesting that, I support that. I understand that. It's the rioters that could come attached to a peaceful protest, and this could get out of hand. That's puts the fear in there.
And you heard Zach a lot. They've decided to split, to change the protesting times so that it is during the daytime. And what they're trying to do is talk to the police of go at night, because we're not protesting at night. So go out at night, and these rioters, you stop them. Go for them. That's what the message is now. We're not going out protesting at night. Mm-hmm. Candle visuals, we'll set those aside. It's very hot during the day, but let's separate this. And you go after the rioters. So I'm proud that people are taking that kind of positive attitude. And I'm like you. I'm a little bit of afraid. We sit out in the country, and if it came out this way, sure, half the country is going to shoot these people coming down the street.
Yeah.
That's what I joke. Yeah, because somebody said, "Are you safe?" And I go, "Well, you're never safe, not in your own homes anymore. But if somebody comes this way, they're going to get shot." So,
Kimberly, where are you? What state are you in?
Raleigh, North Carolina.
You're in Raleigh too? Okay.
Yeah, Nick in Raleigh as well. But I experienced the same thing this morning at my doctor's. I have treatments at Duke once a month. And I was there. My doctor was kind of devastated. I've known her for many, many years. And she's having to move her job to another place. And she's requested to take me as one of her patients. And I'll go with her because she does a good job treating me. But there was a death at her son's school from COVID, even though they had shut the school down, and her son can't understand it. It's elementary. It was a little girl, and her brain swelled, which they have determined that if you have COVID, the disease, it can go in and disturb. There's two types of COVID, the virus and the disease now, and it does cause strokes in people from the age of 20 to 30. But children at certain ages, it can kill. And they're starting to learn more and more about this, and it's devastated her and the family. It just happened this week. Wow. And and her son, she said her son is devastated because it's not over. That's what she said. It's only going to get worse now. And here she was, a little 7-year-old girl, and beautiful, vibrant. The whole community knew her, and the whole community's mourning. I
can't imagine.
How do you move? And the whole family had it. Here's what's sad. The whole family had it, just like you, right? And they're like, okay, we'll get it, we'll get through it, and we'll get over it, and then we don't have to worry about it. And she never got better. And by the time they got her to the hospital, it was too late.
Sorry, there's a cat moving through here.
And they said it causes brain swelling. I don't know. I mean, I don't like to share all the bad news, but just so that people are aware, right, that it's still not better. You know, we're breathing a relief that we think we think we understand it, but this is what she told me. We don't. We don't need to be walking out into this world as if we understand it. And this is North Carolina through the month, right? Of how fast we've grown in cases. And I talked to a friend of mine whose daughter works at the hospital, and but this is about the young girl that just died. But they have a GoFundMe, so if anybody wants to send donations to help the family, it's it's a true story. The little girl is known in my doctor's community. She went to the same school as her son, Aria Soto Morales, and it's just very, very sad. But there's a lot of children that are going to be dying from this, is what she's told me. That this is, yeah. Well, and some of the researchers in North Carolina have learned that that children aren't going to be free from, like what we preached in the beginning, that this is just older people. They said that there's a huge portion of this that seems to be attacking the children now. So,
I wonder if it's mutated again.
It might have
into a virus that will attack children. And I know, my experience was in March 23rd, I was tested. And even that day, the doctor that I saw here in Atlanta was adamant. Your kids will be fine. That's what he kept saying. They're not going to be affected. They could be carriers, but they're not going to get sick. But even hearing, there were several different mutations of it. So I wonder, and I'm not a medical expert, obviously. I'm a retail owner and a podcaster, but just to ask someone, has it mutated into something that can really start affecting children?
And I feel like I've become a lot more educated since this. Again, I'm not a doctor either, but we've talked to so many doctors. I feel like I've learned and heard more about what's the reality of what's happening in the hospitals than what's been told to us. And like you said, there's more mutations. We're aware and have been informed of 4 strains now. 3 weeks ago it was 3 strains, and now it's up to 4. But I agree with you. Perhaps it mutated, and we don't know. And this is what I tell people: we don't know what we're dealing with.
Right.
And but the chickenpox was the same way, right? We didn't know what we were dealing with when we were dealing with it, and it took a long time to understand it. We can't expect to herd immunity on this situation until we understand how to treat it better and what we're dealing with. And they've even had people get reinfected. I don't want to scare you, but it was because it was a second strain. It wasn't the first strain. So, but I'm glad you survived, and you were like one of our first survival stories. But let's talk about your podcast, your business. Let's talk about some happy stuff. Let's get some.
I know. COVID and riots and protests, and it's just stressful. It's just stressful, even if the intention is good. So to ask, what do you want to know? Ask me something about the podcast. Did she freeze?
Yeah, she froze down. Yeah, she'll join back. That's not a problem. Yeah, there's always the technical difficulties while we're doing a live show.
I know. I understand. Yeah. I had technical problems last time, so I got it better. I'm on the computer now, and I can hear well, so I understand.
Great.
Technical issues.
So how are the shows going for you? Podcasting Status Live with Leta?
It's going great. Let's see. 8 shows, 7 or 8 shows now. I have another show coming up next Wednesday. And I believe I hope I say this number right. I believe I just hit 145,000 downloads.
Wow.
So in 8 shows. So yeah, it's going, the numbers are great. That's far exceeded what I would have expected.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So I told you I have Status Life with Leta. That's my show where we talk about interior design, faith, health, weight loss, and basically anything lifestyle, anything in the lifestyle category, I'm going to hit on that podcast. Good stories. I mean, the story that Kimberly was just telling about her friend, even though it had a tragic ending, that's a great story for my podcast. And to be able to share that GoFundMe page and really, help that family if I can, right? That's my platform. But I also host another show. I'm the host of Injury Insider with Derek Hayes, and he is a personal injury attorney. And so I ask the questions so people can write in anything that they want to know, legal questions about personal injury. And, I'm everyone's voice. So that show is going extremely well too. He's surpassing me a little bit, maybe 150. I was in the radio station yesterday. I heard my numbers, but he's always been about 5,000 ahead of me. Wow. So he might even be a show ahead of me. So I've got 2 going. So I tape every Wednesday, whether it's Status Life with Leta or Injury Insider with Derek Hayes. So I have 2 shows a month and he has 2 shows a month and I'm on all of them. So
I know.
Going well.
I get it. And later we are also starting a show about homes. Maybe affordable homes or pod homes or something like that. And we would love to have you on the show.
Oh, that would be fabulous. So I just did a whole series about teaching interior design styles.
Yeah,
so
I know that. Yeah.
I took, let's see, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the most popular interior design styles and highlighted them. And I brought another interior designer on. And so that was a lot of fun. So yeah, I think if you have a home podcast, I think I would have a lot to offer. We can talk trends. I did another series on the difference between an interior decorator and an interior designer, and most people don't know, but there is a huge difference. So yeah, let me come on.
Share that real quick. Just share real quick to the viewers the real quick difference for those. Share that.
Okay, so an interior designer can be an interior decorator, but an interior decorator cannot be an interior designer. Those terms are usually used interchangeably, but in fact, they are 2 very different positions. The interior decorating is the finishes. That's who comes in at the end, right? They're going to handle your drapes. They're going to handle your furnishings, your accessories. Of course, an interior decorator can pick light fixtures and they can pick selections, but an interior designer, you really need to come in at the beginning of a project, whether it's new construction or a remodel. You need it, or even if it's, you think you're doing decorating, an interior designer can really space plan. They can show you how to move walls. They should know what's load bearing. They should know electrical information. They have not, we're not HVAC licensed and insured, but an interior designer is going to have a whole lot more information about the actual construction, not just the decorating. And again, many interior decorators like to call themselves designers because it's, it's a little step above, but an interior designer, you can be licensed. You have to have an education there. I have an interior design degree. So there is a whole lot more education, work experience that goes into becoming an interior designer. If you want to be an interior decorator, there's really no qualifications. There's nobody governing it. You can just be extremely talented and have a good eye and know how things really work well together. And that is perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with the term interior decorator as a career choice. Let me make that clear. Interior designers have to know how to do interior decorating. That's when you do a project, it is full circle. So you start, again, with the space planning, and there's a whole process, and you're going to get to the end, and you're not just going to walk away and bring in an interior designer. You're going to complete the entire project, the entire home. Maybe it's an entire hotel. I mean, hospitality design, medical design, whatever field of interior design you go in, But an interior decorator, they can't do anything commercial. So any commercial space, you really want to make sure that you're finding a licensed interior designer. So that's basically the overall. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask. But that really hopefully explains that there are two very significant positions. And there are different degrees. When I went to the University of Georgia, you could get a degree. It was a family and consumer science, or you could get a true art degree. So there are different paths you can take, even in your education, based on what you want to do. So yeah, I mean, most people do not know that. They hear designer and they don't really know what it means. They think you just make things pretty, and we do, but there's a whole lot more that goes into it.
Well, it's a little more engineering to me when you go into the design part. And
architecture, yes, drafting. I mean, I have a full drafting certification, an architectural drafting certification as an interior designer. So I liked my favorite. This is me personally, but I love to take just a raw piece of land and watch the entire house be constructed. But I'm more residential. I've done some commercial. It's really not my forte. I'm out here in the suburbs of Atlanta. So I do mostly residential interior design, but I love construction. I'm doing a modern farmhouse right now, and it's just my favorite. I love that part of it. The decorating's great. We're starting to pick all the furnishings right now, and so it'll be beautiful when it's done. But yeah, so this family was I don't want to say smart enough, but knowledgeable enough to bring on an interior designer when the process was still in the blueprints, right? And have me review everything, and what wall do you think should go where, and how will this beam look, and what's the lighting layout need to look like. So that's really important, because if you get to the end and that isn't right, then you're just fixing mistakes.
And, you say that they were knowledgeable enough, but I know that there are good contractors out there that they give that advice. They will tell you absolutely. They will, and some of them will give you a list and say, we won't pick them for you, but it might be wise. We're good at what we do, but if you're building your own home, it might be wise to try. And we had them tell us that. And that was, at first I didn't want to. I'm like, why do I need to hire somebody again? Because I didn't understand the difference, right? And it was probably one of the smartest decisions we made, because they showed us where it was wise to cut corners that you could fix later, as opposed to what not to cut corners in. I think that was the biggest investment part in having the designer come in and help us tackle those mindsets. I do have this interesting question for you, because I think that as much as it is an educated skill, I think it's still a lot of talent. I can't just go in and go think these things. I can't, but or maybe I could if I sat down and did it enough. But have you ever just ran into that project that you're like, there's just no way I could do anything with this, or it was just more than what you wanted? Have you ever seen one of those?
No. But the way that I think about that is, they need me so bad. And honestly, that is, you walk in and go, okay, please just walk away and let me get my hands all over this. Yes, that is it, 100%.
I love your attitude.
Yes, no, let me in. I mean, that's the grit. I told you, I love taking anything. And there are plenty of people, and a lot of them are self-proclaimed, that they don't see color correctly. They don't know how to put things together. They don't understand scale. So I can walk in and look at a wall and realize all the pictures are way too small, little tiny frames on a big wall. And I go, let's either add 100 more, or let me take this, so again, those are the decorating tricks,
Sure.
that you learn. But yes, I mean, it is, I didn't go into this business without the talent. I was drawn to it because I love color, and I love textures. I love textiles, and I love helping people. So this was really a win-win for me on the career choice.
Well, and you're fortunate enough, and I don't know if you were born and raised there, but Georgia is one of the art capitals of the world. It really is. And you've got some of the best art schools in the world are there, CAD. which actually integrates with a lot of other art universities around the world. So you get a worldly, but being in Atlanta, you're the crossroads to a lot of, and great artists in my mind. You're right smack in the middle between some of the greatest artwork that ever happens. And I don't think people really realize that, or maybe people in the art industry do, but just people in general.
I agree with all the museums and culture and theater. There's so, I mean, you're right. I mean, Atlanta, it is amazingly cultured with the arts.
It always has been. And this is something I noticed before. My son's an artist, and he went to art school of visual arts. He had a choice to go to CAD. And actually, CAD turned around when they found out SVA took him. CAD turned around and offered him a full ride.
Wow.
And that was the hardest choice of his life, because we made a solid choice on SVA because we felt like for his type of art, it was better. And we had already invested in it. We'd already started making the payments on it. We started making payments on it. And he had attended the year before he graduated from high school, he attended a full semester there. And so it was a tough choice because CAD was his other alternative, and he was a horseback rider, and they wanted him for his horseback riding skills.
Oh, wow.
Georgia, come on. George is big on that equestrian, right? So,
yeah.
But tough choice. But I learned a lot about CAD because of that, right? And because we started investigating the schools both in great detail, and we finally made the decision. This is weird. Normally, I'd take the most for your money kind of deal, and I feel like we still got the most for our money. CAD would have been free, but SVA offered him the curriculum that he needed, and so.
Well, I had many, not to get into my whole history, but I had many different majors before I landed on art and interior design, and it was the right choice. I mean, I took many different paths. I tried. I'm a dancer by trade. I've danced my entire life, which is extremely, heavy in the arts. But my mom was a dance major, and it didn't get her very far. You're either going to perform or you're going to teach. She did a little of both, and then she ended up going back to college, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to come out. So I danced all through college, but in private studios, and then chose education, for my formal education. And then I went pre-law. I think I would have been a good lawyer, and it's very ironic that now I host a legal podcast. So in some ways, I still get to dabble in that, but. And then I chose a veterinarian, and science just wasn't for me. I can't dissect things. I don't like blood. I'm very squeamish. So art was my choice, and it has suited me very well.
So Leta, that's interesting that you have multiple majors and finally have chosen whatever you are doing right now. So I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
What is your best project which you have done so far?
My best, I'm sorry, what?
What is the best work till now? I mean, you made a lot of homes, or you have interior a lot of homes. So, what is the best project you have?
The best projects. So, I spent 10 years of my career in Florida, and I worked for a custom home builder there. And so, if you drive the Florida coastline, some of those big, beautiful oceanfront homes. They're just showcase homes. And so to be able to work on those was really an honor. I've done a lot around Atlanta and around the suburbs. But when I go back down there, I did some commercial work down there too. That was award winning. And those homes are just so majestic, right? They're just right on the ocean. And I'm very proud to have those as part of my portfolio.
Great. And what is the dream project which you want to do now? After so much of experience and time and all those things, what is the dream project?
Oh, hospitality. I'd like to go really do a big hotel. Something really big. I'd like to take a year or 2 years. And even if I'm on a team, even if it's not my entire project, but I would love to be a part of creating something that big.
Great. And have you done any tree houses?
No, but that's really cool. No, I've not done a tree house. No, I've never been asked to do one. I've done, this was really neat. I've done a loft. So
Okay.
I'll have to send you a picture of the space, but you have
Sure.
to envision this, right? I'm going to try to paint a picture. So it was in a home. They had vaulted ceilings, huge vaulted ceilings.
Okay.
And the closet stopped at about the 8-foot mark. So there was probably another 8 feet up to the top of the ceiling. So we built a treehouse loft on top of that closet with a staircase for a little boy in a boy's room. Wow. So I've done an interior treehouse. But the pictures are amazing. So it was just dead space. It was too expensive. It was too much drywall to take that closet another 8 feet up to the ceiling. So the homeowner called and said, let's do something really cool for my son. So it was this little boy had an inside treehouse in his bedroom.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated about tree houses, and I wonder when will I get my own tree house. But I'm always excited to have one, and you can do a lot of things. I mean, in tree house, I mean, there's a lot of nature and a lot of interesting work. And you know that you have limited space, but still, by your expertise, we can fill those spaces.
That's exactly right. I will help you when you're ready for your tree house. Just send me a picture of the tree, and I'll give you some sketches. Okay,
Done.
That's perfectly fine.
Tree houses are a fascination. Maybe the Swiss Family Robinson movies brought it out in all of us. But
now I got to walk through that house down at Disney in Florida. They have the Swiss family. It's so neat. So I can see why, because it's really cool.
One of the coolest treehouse businesses I saw was in Charlotte area, North Carolina. A family that owns a winery did treehouse. It's called the Treehouse Winery. And they built tree houses so people can come spend the night in tree houses.
Nice.
So yeah,
that's cool.
I thought that was
write that down because I'm into tree houses and wine, so that seems like it would be something I need to go check out.
You know, if you're into wine, the vineyard country here in North Carolina grew tremendously because they turned all of the tobacco farms into vineyards. Mm-hmm. Well, majority of them anyway. And they're not all the muscadine wines. See, I'm not crazy about the North Carolina wines. But what happened was they started calling in a wine biochemist, right? And they started growing the Merlots, the Chardonnays, and they have now, hands down, some of the best wine I have ever tasted. I mean, just hands down. And here's what's funny. About 10 years ago, maybe a little bit earlier than that, my best friend and I, her son and my son were going to school together. And they were getting to that age, they didn't want us around anymore, right? So just what do we do now? So we decided to go, let's go visit some of the wineries in North Carolina, right? And we had this map and we were going to go visit all of them. And we could have back then, but somehow or another they exploded, and what was probably 50 turned into 200.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun though. It's a great atmosphere, even just to go and enjoy the day. I was fortunate enough to travel to Napa last year and get to enjoy some of the California wineries. Derek and I have been really touring Georgia. I don't know if I'm going to say this right. Georgia is maybe the #1 fastest growing area for wineries right now. And I asked the winemaker that we were chatting with at this specific winery that we went to, and I said, well, why is that? Is it because of our climate, or is it because of, it's all in the mountains, right? The North Georgia mountains, basically untouched. If you go to California and you drive through wine country, it's all spoken for. It's all wineries. It's beautiful and very majestic, but it's not like Georgia, where it's very mountainous and forest. And he said both, that the climate in Georgia really speaks to the soil and to producing wine. And that, again, I was kind of right in my thought process in that there is so much land available. So it's kind of neat. You know, I guess North Carolina is really jumping on that bandwagon too. So
yeah, wonderful. So Leta, I think she froze on again. There's some technical difficulties.
I know she's having trouble today. That's okay.
Yeah. So back to the questions. So we are very interested to do something on homes and things like that. But
Yeah.
a lot of our viewers would like to know that what should be the budget we spent on interior designers? Is there any budget, including the stuff and things like that?
It really needs to be based on each project. Yeah. You know, if you're building an entire house, it depends on the size of the house. You need, you know, I had clients come to me and say, okay, this is the budget for the house and this is the budget we have for a designer. Can you work with that? And I said, absolutely. I can keep you within that budget. But their house is about 3,000 square feet. Now, another house that I worked on ended up being 10,000 square feet. And so that's got a much different budget, much more furnishings, much more selections, you know, and so and a lot of times I'll just do a remodel, and it's just depends on the project. That's all I can say. There's not one set price. Now, interior designers have a set based on how we have our pay scale. You can go with a set hourly rate, so you should know beforehand what your interior designer charges. So you can budget, okay, I want to use the interior designer for 10 hours or for 20 hours, or I don't care. I just need them throughout the whole project, and that's fine. So, so yeah, there's not really a concrete answer, just to be aware of how much it's going to cost before you go into the project. You don't want to kind of run out of interior design budget before you get to the end, because that's when the interior designer has probably the most work. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand completely.
Yeah.
And also, in some cases, people do their houses and then they invite interior designers after a year or so because they're always short of budgets. So
sure, that is fine too. I mean, it's not ideal. And at that point, if the house is already done, you're probably looking at more of an interior decorator, which again is fine, perfectly fine. At that point, you know, the house is built, paint's on the wall, unless there's something that needs to be changed. But yeah, an interior designer and interior decorator live in it. I mean, sometimes I'm that way. Even though I am a designer, I have to live in the space and get a feel for it before I really start making decisions about what I want to put where. So anyways, I hate to say goodbye, and I know Kimberly's not here, but I was telling you that we are having the protest that starts shortly in my area. And I have a very close friend. He is a police officer, and he is actually sitting in my driveway right now waiting for me. He's going to take me up to my store so we can finish buttoning it up. So we've got to get the computers and kind of the things that are really valuable. So he's gonna escort me up there. So I hate to cut short, but I really have to take care of this before I don't have him. So. But thank you for having me again. This is so fun. I really appreciate it.
Like to have you again and again. I mean, I know you are busy, but we keep on trying and getting you on board.
You'll get me. Absolutely. Sure. All right. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye. Tell Kimberly I said bye. Bye-bye.